back aboard, folks. We're just getting ourselves tuned in here, and I've realized that we did not start one important application. Let's get that going for you. Let's see, right there. And you should see it in a second. Why are we not? Huh. Well, wait, it's just a right kettle of fish just burning. Quick data, and here's alright, so we're having all kinds of fun stuff this morning. Apparently you guys can't see what I see. Window capture 2. Should be on? Okay, so that's showing up. Yay! At least that part's working. Let's grab the other window capture. Game capture 2. There we go. No, not game capture 2. That's the wrong one. You want this one? You don't want this one. Alright, we're having some issues this morning. Not sure why. We'll get it going here. Let's add a new source. Display capture. No, not the entire screen capture. There we go. Add a source. We're going to add a new source instead. And this is going to be called... So sorry guys. You should be able to see this right off the hop, not, you know, waiting 3 years. There we go. Alright. So now we're going to move this down below flight data. And face cam up. So in theory, if this is working correctly, we should be streaming on both. We're going to update the title on the YouTube channel. This is the first time we've done this with Restream, so bear with us for a few minutes here while we get ourselves reset up. It's a little bit different to what I normally do. Close that up because you don't need to hear the feedback. Grab that. Update the titles. Title is Boom Club, and the description is reviewing Grob 115. Alaska to home. Grob 115 review. Okay. There we go. Alright, so that's a little bit of a pain in the butt. Go ahead and close that up. And we'll hop over to on air, go to the tracking page. There we go. Alright, so we are doing this like in on air. We're not doing it for Pilot Club, so it's a little bit different. We're sitting in the Grob 115. This is by Iris Simulations. It's a pretty features complete aircraft. Unfortunately, there's a couple of things right off the bat that I want to touch on. It would be really nice to have delivery working so that we can change that tail number. It changes with delivery. It does not. It's not a dynamic. For those of you who are not aware, Grob is a German company with passed it a couple of times when I was a long haul truck driver, but I don't. It's been a long time. We're sitting here on the apron at Yakutat in the Grob. You'll notice that this has a RAF rondelle on wings and fuselage. These are because, they're there because the RAF typically uses this as a primary flight trainer. The RCAF, the Royal Canadian Air Force, also uses it as a primary flight trainer. So it's a pretty good, little bird. And you'll get to what I'm saying with that in a little bit. So, as you can see here in Navigraph charts, if that's displaying correctly, which it is, awesome. We're sitting at the top end of apron A. Winds are really light and favorable today. So what we're going to do is we're just going to taxi out on Alpha to 11. Then we're going to, it's a 7,000 foot runway. We're just going to head straight out. It's going to make things nice and easy. We'll verify that we're kind of heading south and on GPS track and head over to Ketchikan. Climb up to about 5,500 because we are mostly eastbound. And we'll go from there. So, a couple of things. Different kind of parking brake in this aircraft. Right off the hop, got a slider there. Set and release. Got a chronograph up front. Battery, generator, fuel pump start. Magnetos controls. Our avionics master is on. Our pitot heat is off. Landing light is off. Let's go ahead and turn on our taxi light. We don't have a taxi light, so we're going to throw a landing light on and its place. Nav lights are on. And instrument lights are off, so we'll go ahead and turn those on. The circuit breakers are half operational. We have some in here that work, maybe not. We have the ability to mute the co-pilot comms so that only the pilot can transmit. So all in all, we're not too worried. So, taxi up. We have a Freecaster nose wheel, so it is takes a little bit of getting used to. You have to get it rolling and then start your turns. If you're going from a dead stop. We do have that stupid taxiway highlight on. I need to turn that off at one point, especially when I have the airport charged with Navigraph. Thank you, Navigraph, for being a wonderful, absolutely wonderful tool. Can't wait for Navigraph 8, because I've been doing a lot more VFR flying in the sim. So, the Grob is an interesting bird. She wants to cruise in the range of the flaps, believe it or not. Getting her up to altitude, getting everything configured up for cruise, and you'll be cruising somewhere around the 110 mark. So you're at the top range of the flaps. Makes it really easy to bring her in. Lands pretty steady, takes off pretty steady, as you're going to see here in a little bit. It does require a little bit of right rudder, but all is well. Might have missed my plan here a little bit. Did we miss Alpha? We missed Alpha. Alright, where are we sitting? We're sitting on 20. Yakutat traffic, November 3740 Golf, is taking off runway 11. Tracking eastbound. Get my arm off of the other throttle. Stop using this rest. Alright, we're going to go ahead and throw strobes and pitot on. Pitot heat did not respond. Let's go ahead and throw the pitot heat on. One notch flaps. And we're on the roll. We're going to ease the power and we're going to go to 2500 on the RPM. We're not going to max this thing out. We have all kinds of runway. There's no reason to max it. And as you see, as we accelerate, we actually gain RPM speed. So we're going to let it ride. A little bit of right rudder and allows us to maintain nice
airborne time logged.
Let the nose settle. Brake on the wheels. We're going to get above that 80 knot mark, we're going to go flap some. And there we are. We're going to climb. Then we're going to pitch for 70 knots. We're going to hold it there. Be aware by now, if you're flight sim enthusiast, Sim Update 10 is released. It is added in some wonderful, wonderful mission features. So, to cover some of those really quickly, we have now the winds are acting correctly. I know that seems like a simplification, and it kind of is, but winds are behaving a lot more like you'd expect. We now have winds after takeoff, not off the ground, upper wind layers, etc. that gust, change direction, so you get wind shear, you get gusting. It's a much better implementation. And one of the things I find interesting is if you look out there today, the winds are calm. If you look at the water, that is ocean water, and it is dead calm. We're not getting a lot of surface wind effect on it, which is beautiful to see. It's really going to make a difference when we start doing some more float flying and what have you. Loving it. That's all I can say about it. Absolutely loving it. Got some flashes over there from the nearby seaplane base land field. We'll go over some of the instrumentation in this aircraft. I would call it VFR equipped. I would not call this full instrument. We have our HSI, which, yes, does allow us to track VORs and GPS tracks, but for the GPS tracks, you do have to preload them in the MSFS pre-planner. Bit of a pain, but, you know, it's not really worth complaining about. We're going to come back now on the manifold pressure to about 24 inches. We are 25 on max continuous 24. Yeah, so we're doing all right. And you see, as soon as you make adjustments, if you're not paying attention, this aircraft will go. She is capable for full aerobatics. We don't have G meter. Oh, sorry, there's a G meter. I misspoke. But yeah, all in all, pretty good aircraft for up to 2,000 feet now. Sliding cockpit, side-by-side seating makes it an ideal trainer. The side-by-side seating allows you to physically show and act, etc. Front-to-back training is a little bit more solo-style training. Great for students who can try to learn by doing rather than learn by showing. But all in all, good setup. Responding to my Bravo. My Bravo active. My Bravo is active, so I'm not sure what's going on there. Now the GPS track has us much left, but we're heading in the correct general direction, so it's not that big of a deal. We are going to kind of stay preferably within gliding distance of still haven't managed to fully tweak settings, etc. So I'm not sure how bad the stuttering and all that is for you guys. And I also forgot to go ahead and chat and open up so that I can see you guys talking, because that is very important. There we go. Connected and good. One thing I would like to see is... Wow.
Can you guys even hear me when I do that? Let me know. One thing I would like to see is if anyone watching through the YouTube stream can give me a quick chat message and see if it pops up. If not, I might have to reconfigure the Twitch chat panel for the next time. If you're watching me on YouTube, welcome to Percival's Playhouse, where we do all kinds of fun stuff in Flight Simulator. Mostly ultralight, light aircraft flying. Not really into the big airliners. They don't, right now they don't seem to handle very well. I'm going to try getting a video card upgrade here and see if that helps out. Again, sorry. Really sorry about that. Felt that coming with just enough time to move the mic. I don't have a hotkey set to mute it. Maybe I should. Yeah, so welcome to Percival's Playhouse, or Percy's Playhouse, as I think I labeled it. If you're on Twitch, welcome to Percival Bottom's channel. You've probably been here before. If not, welcome back. If you have, welcome back. Welcome to the virtual skies. So, Grob 115. You can see we're sitting up 24 inches manifold pressure. We're still in the climb, 3,000 feet. We're going to try and climb to 5.5. We did not file a flight plan. If need be, we'll file an en route. But didn't file a flight plan, didn't feel the need to. VFR flights in North America, specifically Canada and the US, do not require a pre-filing. Instead, there are some other things you can do for your flight safety, which is have a responsible person who you'll make contact with at the end of the flight, or will be present for the end of your flight in order to confirm that you made it safely, and will report you missing if you don't make it in time. That person, of course, will need to know your intended flight path, so on and so forth, so that they can send the search crews in the correct general direction. The Grob 115, as I stated before, is a basic flight trainer. There's no autopilot, so we're hand flying this thing the whole way. You can see I'm making minor adjustments on the stick, nothing really severe. It is nice in that it takes off of both fuel tanks, so you're not worried about remembering to switch tanks all the time like you are with some of the other aircraft that we fly here on the channel. Pretty capable bird. Not extremely overpowered, not extremely underpowered either, by any stretch of the imagination. Cruises pretty comfortably once you get it up there, trimmed out, which we're going to be trying to do here shortly. We're up to 3,000. We're just going to bleed off some of that mixture. A little less fuel, a little more air, as we pass through 4,000 feet. And we enjoy the beautiful, beautiful Alaskan scenery. With the Rockies on our left and the Pacific Ocean on our right, makes for a nice picturesque place to review. The sun is just coming up, which is really nice. I'm going to try and get that out of our eyes so that we can see properly. One of the things I noticed with Sim Update 10 is there's a slight graphics degradation. Oh, part of it might be my IDP has become misset. Try and get that back down to 51 or 61. 60 works. There we go. Okay. We'll just try and keep that climb going. I'm gonna move the Twitch chat down a little bit so I can get a better view of my VSI. We're climbing at 500 feet a minute. We're just kind of in a gentle en route cannot speak today. We're kind of in a gentle en route climb. I'm going to turn well past the sun because that thing is right in our eyes. We're going to try and get back on the GPS track now that we're up at 4,500 feet. that nose a little bit so we can accelerate back up. $2,400, and we're going to come up on the manifold pressure a little bit to match. So we're keeping that cruise climb going. 23 inches on the manifold. 5 degrees pitched up, and we're climbing at 250 feet per minute, so we're misconfigured. Let's go full power. 25 and 25, and there's our 500 at 5 degrees. So, very good aircraft for teaching you your engine management. We're full tanks, so I'm not really worried about the fuel burn. She's got a range of a little over 600 miles with your 30-minute or 45-minute reserve. We're only going 200 miles, so it'll be about a 2-hour flight. But again, it's all going to be by hand. It's going to be nice and gentle turns. Not really looking for stress here. It's nice to see some nice weather come back up in Alaska. It's been a rough few weeks as they dealt with the remnants of a cyclone. We're down to the south a little bit of where that was taking place, so that helps. Sun's up, so we're burning off some of that morning fog and getting everything pretty to look at. The other thing we also have going on in the sim is I highly recommend it if you do, like if you're interested in it. Get a hold of Kinetic Assistant and get it in your sim, because it's going to add something that the sim doesn't have by default, and that is the ability to get thermals and hotspots in your sim. So you'll have places where you'll be flying along and all of a sudden you'll get a boost, a lift. It's very nice, especially if you're flying glider aircraft. It's absolutely vital for that. Love it. And it will work with any of your aircraft. It does not, you do not have to be in an unpowered aircraft for it. So definitely take advantage. There is a freeware version of it. Use the hotspots API to load up. Again, absolutely love it. The landing lights are off, which is great. We do not need to be descending like that, and we blew through our 5,500 without noticing. So we're going to let the nose fall. We're going to come back on the power. Accelerate a little bit while we lose another 100 feet. So all in all, it's a well-equipped aircraft, but I would not necessarily trust it for IFR conditions, seeing as how you have no backups. Like you've got Nav 1, Nav 2, Com 1, Com 2, so you've got a relatively basic IFR package. You've got a basic GPS. It's, again, it's not bad, but I really wouldn't want to trust it too much for the IFR. If you want simple IFR flying. If you want to do it according to the book and do it all manually, then it is an absolutely fantastic aircraft for IFR operations. Two VOR readers or display units. You've got your chronograph right in front of you, allowing you to track your times, etc. It's a pretty decent aircraft. A little bit on the exterior of the model here. Let's go ahead and take a peek outside. Very well done. Don't let that left wing fall. I find she's a little sensitive to the propeller torque. Beacon underneath, nav lights. All in all, she's pretty well done. Trim tab, pretty large trim tab. Got your VHF antenna. All in all, pretty nice aircraft, relatively comfy to fly. It's a good bird. And we're, as you can see, in a gentle right turn, as she likes to do. So I'll just keep that left turn going a little bit to get back on the GPS track. And we're making 117 knots over the ground. If we pull up our Navigraph charts again, we might actually be able to just load up the flight plan. Yeah, just load the flight plan. It says direct 358 miles. I'm not sure why we're having issues now with panels fighting each other, but we are. You can see, if you take your eyes off the horizon for a minute, she already starts moving. So it's pretty good flight dynamic. Okay. Obviously, Navigraph charts is giving us a challenge here. So we're just going to close it up. Now we're up over the mountains. We're just going to kind of follow along the shoreline because that's generally where we're going. We're up to 6,000 feet again because we missed it. So we're going to begin that descent back down. We're going to come right off on the power. And one thing we can do is we'll bring up the VFR chart, VFR map, navlog, and VFR map. Kind of give you an idea how the new VFR map looks with service update 10. Give it a minute to load up. It does take a little while. Does have some height mapping. Just kind of zoom out a little bit. And we're actually flying way off of our... Yay! We're having those issues today. So we'll actually fly back towards the shoreline because apparently we were flying further and further off course. Oops, and we missed our 5,500. So there we go. We're going to power ourselves back up to 23. And we'll come back to 24 on the prop. And then we're gonna lean out a little bit. And that's gonna give us our good. Alright, you're starting to upset me with your constant attention seeking. So that sudden stall and roll was not the fault of the aircraft. That is Microsoft Flight Simulator taking away my control inputs and then giving them back with all authority. So we're only going to climb up at a few feet per minute. And we'll just be keeping an eye. Oops. So Alpha 69 is down below us. We're supposed to be able to click on that and have it tell us about it, but Alpha 69 does not show up there. So in order to keep straight and level, we're having to apply a little bit of back pressure, so we're just going to add in a couple of notches of trim. Which you can see not working very well there. Up again, up again. Right there seems to be doing the trick. Right about there. So we got the beautiful, beautiful mountains. And the winds are light, you can tell, because we're tracking relatively straight across the ground. So we're not having to do too much crabbing. So there are a couple of things that we're going to want to check, so I'm going to pop over to Sky Vector really quick. And double check what fields those are. So we took off from Yakutat. So Alpha 69 is Tanis Mesa. Tanis Mesa. Which makes me wonder if they ever saw that, or if they ever listened to that podcast up there. The podcast was called Tanis. It would be kind of interesting. I don't remember having completed it. I think I listened to an episode or two and then got distracted by other things. Visibility in the Grob 115, not too bad. I don't like this massive section where the canopy connects. That's a bit of a pain, but this canopy bow is it's here. It's definitely kind of in your face, so it'd be nice if it wasn't, but can't win everything. So looking at Sky Vector, we've got Tanis Mesa, Alsek River, Dry Bay, and East Alsek River, all kind of in the same vicinity. Not too far from the Grand Plateau Glacier. The general graphics, at least in VR, are not bad. The aircraft is fully VR compatible. Everything that should be clickable is clickable. It's not bad. I do like it. We do have an opening canopy, which I'll demonstrate once we get to our destination and landing. But like I said, it's a pretty accurately performing bird. If you develop bad habits like just letting the stick rest and not flying the aircraft, you will notice a very slight tendency to roll to the left. Which you can take out with a little bit of rudder trim. Which I don't have configured. I'd have to use the display below the kinetic panel. Kinetic panel's just an interesting little add-on for, Kinetic panel's an interesting add-on for being able to see what's going on in Kinetic Assistant inside the sim. It's not necessary. VFR map is now showing us another airport. That would be the East Alsek River airport. So Alpha 69 is that one there. Not really concerned we're 5,900 feet again, which we shouldn't be. We're going to go ahead and descend. Keep that forward pressure on the stick, but just a little bit of pressure. Not even going to bother taking the power out of it. And now we're up to 120. You can feel the back pressure a little bit on the as the trim becomes more effective. One thing I have noticed with Sim Update 10, if you look at the compass, you can see that artifacting. They told us that that was going to be there, and we're just waiting on the NVIDIA driver update, which is supposed to take care of that. So we'll see what happens when that comes, or if it comes, yada yada yada, you know, the usual. So we've been up for 45 minutes. Flight time so far is about 15 minutes. There's the Grand Plateau Glacier off to our left there. It's a pretty spot. Alsic River traffic, November 3740 Golf is 5,500 feet over top of the field, passing to the southeast. Should have called a little bit earlier, but it's all good. This area up here in Alaska is really not busy at all. Especially at this time of day. We're flying relatively early in the morning when the winds are still calm and things are still pretty and all that fun stuff. Yep, so all in all, it's a pretty stable platform. Stable when you want it to be, unstable when you want it to be. That'll be East Alsic River down there. East Alsic River traffic, November 3740 Golf is type Grob 115, 5,500 feet. We're about a mile to the northeast of the field, tracking southeast bound. And that's that field down there. Again, 5,500 feet, we're not doing too bad. We are getting into some clouds, so we may have to descend. We'll see how that goes. Either descend or divert around it, which I think we'll probably end up just kind of going around it, if we can. Because we are flying VFR, so it's not a big deal. We'll just fly out over those mountain ridge there and see how we make out. Because it looks like that's going to keep us clear of the clouds. But we'll see. We'll do what we gotta do. One of the things that Sim Update 10 did not fix is this tiling effect that you get from time to time, where one section of the map is in one season and another section is in a slightly different season, and you end up with kind of chunky straight lines. All in all, MSFS is beautiful. I love it. Unfortunately, I really wish they'd fix stuff like that. The blending between tiles is way off. But, I mean, when you consider that they've got the entire world satellite mapped into the sim, it is really nice. Especially in populated areas where I can actually navigate VFR based on real-world VFR charts. Which is one of the reasons we started doing a lot more VFR flying, is because with X-Plane 11, we couldn't do that. With Flight Simulator, we can. And once I got into that, it became a lot nicer. See that cloud? Just like I thought. It's going to let us through, and we're going to get a nice, clear path right along the ridge. And that cloud's going to stay off our right wing. We're on top Subco. Yeah. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. The thing you have to remember about mountain flying is that conditions can change in a heartbeat. And that's one of the advantages to this aircraft, is that I could, while in flight, plan an IFR flight, pick up in-flight IFR clearance, and, you know, start flying that. It is IFR capable. I'm not particularly enthused by it. It is classic IFR, so you're going to be VOR navigating, VOR to VOR and waypoints, which, thank goodness, are still functional. There is some rumor that they're working on replacing those as GPS becomes cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. And that's where an aircraft like this is a bit of a pain, because you cannot, with Flight Simulator, in-flight replan. You're kind of, like, that's kind of where you're at. You either plan your flight beforehand and you fly the full flight, or you exit the sim and, like, land somewhere, exit the sim, replan, and continue on. Which I suppose in some ways is good, however it's not realistic. In the real world you can kind of switch between the two as necessary. You can open up an IFR flight in flight, conditions permitting, of course. One thing this aircraft does not have that makes it a little difficult in flying in Alaskan weather is there's no anti-icing system. You are not going to want to fly this in known icing conditions. You do have pitot heat, but pitot heat is just basic protection. It's not going to save you. As for aerodynamic capability, what we're going to do now is we're going to get the aircraft a little unstable. So we're going to show you what happens with full rudder deflection. There's full rudder deflection. You can see the speed bleeding off, which is fairly accurate. I still have power in, which is keeping our speed up a little bit. If I were to take that power off and then kick it, you can see that bleeds right back. And while we maintain that airspeed, or maintain that minimum airspeed to keep the lift going, we don't lose too much in terms of altitude, etc. We did give it a slight nose up. So she will side slip pretty well. I've not really spent much time trying to do the aerobatics with it, getting the snap rolls and what have you. That's my favorite to really test the aerobatic capabilities of an aircraft, is if it'll snap roll. Which is basically loaded up into an aggravated stall, or sorry, not an aggravated stall, an accelerated stall, and then unload it and throw the tail right over top of the aircraft. It makes for an interesting flight dynamic as your aircraft tumbles through the air. Complete one snap roll, recover with spin recovery technique, and then continue. And you'll notice on this aircraft we actually have spin recovery procedure. Close the throttle, centralize the ailerons, apply full rudder to the opposite yaw rate, push the control column forward as necessary until the rotation ceases, and when rotation ceases, centralize the rudder and recover from the ensuing dive. Which basically says stop the rotation, break the stall that caused the spin, and then recover as normal stall recovery. So you can see that winter has started in Alaska. We've got a few spots where the bays are starting to collect ice and freeze in. I don't know how much I would trust that ice for a landing surface yet. Be a bit of a danger zone. But yes, all in all, really, really pretty. We do have that large mountain off our left side. If we pop open Sky Vector again, we can take a peek at what that mountain is. That would probably be Mount Watson and Mount Fairweather that we're kind of looking at there. But yeah, it's a very pretty environment to be flying in. What would be nice is if we were able to swap the radio stack with the PMS-50 750 GTN, but I don't believe that's in their list of aircraft. Can find out for you real quick here. PMS-50. View compatible aircraft, and in cockpit the Grob 115 is not listed. So that's a no-go. And you can see I let go of the stick for a couple of minutes. We immediately get into that left roll, which obviously is coming off the propeller, so it is very sensitive to P-torque. But now that we've got that right bank set up, you can see she's pretty stable, and we're just letting it's an uncoordinated right bank turn, let it just kind of slip its way through the air, and you can see it's slowly but surely leveling itself out. If we were to do the same thing to the left, the turn would actually aggravate over time. So that was a so in my setup, I've showed you this before on the stream, we have the Bravo throttle system on my right, we have the HOTAS on my left, and then we have the SATEC mounted, SATEC. We have the Logitech throttle quadrant also mounted on my left ahead of the Thrustmaster HOTAS. So every now and then I accidentally rest my arm on the HOTAS, which acts as a throttle input, which resets the throttle to somewhere near idle position. So we end up with a bit of a funkiness. You can see we have our radio antennas on the cowling there. It's an interesting spot for them, but oh well. Got a fairly sizable baggage area, limited to 121 pounds, 55 kilo. As far as I'm aware of, not having read manual, etc., there is no EFB or anything like that for this aircraft to add in passenger or baggage. There doesn't seem to be a click spot. However, they are viewable from the exterior. You can see them from the exterior view. That could just be a VR thing. It could be, I don't know. My reviews are based entirely on VR, as I fly exclusively in VR, unless I sometime in the future build myself a full wraparound setup, which is not likely to happen. They're expensive and take up space, and I rent, not own, so I don't have a space to do that. Would be really nice though. It is one of the things I'd love to do in the future, is set up a full system. So it's just by sheer luck today that we're actually getting to stream. I had a prior engagement that the weather broke through, and as it's been doing lately, it'll be nice and sunny all work week. When my days are nice and long, on the short days, it'll be either really windy or raining, which kind of kills the option to go flying IRL. And then we go and get ourselves into stupid situations by weekends where we don't have any time, because weather again. So I had a delivery planned for today, or a transportation planned for today, where I was going to do a family member a favor and get a repair done on a vehicle by loading it to trailer and trailering it off to a repair. But the rain got in the way. Don't want to do that in the rain, so we're not going to. So that gives me to you guys to stream this. It's a relatively stable flight. We're starting to get into some weather. I know Juneau area, we were looking at winds up to 8 knots, and in Ketchikan area it was very similar. And you can see we're registering 110 on the ground speed, and we're losing about 5 knots, so we're obviously picking up some headwinds. Which is not entirely surprising in this area. Got a nice lake we're flying over. It's been frozen over, so not much going on there. That's coming out of the glacier. Is that on... I'll bet you that's on SkyVector, and we can kind of figure out where that's at. So let's do that. SkyVector says that would be the Fairweather Glacier on the backside of Mount Fairweather. So that would be Mount Fairweather there, and that would be the Fairweather Glacier. And this lake would be the Cape Fairweather, and the lake itself is not named on the map. And in case you're wondering, that peak there of Mount Fairweather goes up to 15,000 feet. Again, we're in the Grob 115. Grob 115 is not pressurized and has no inbuilt oxygen system, so we would be on oxygen bottles if we were to go up there. Oh, looks like we hit a lift point at one point. Go ahead and throttle back and send our butts back down to 5,500. Might be getting a little bit of ridge lift as well as the wind hits the mountains and kind of picks us up with it. Which is going to allow us for a little less throttle and a higher speed, which is nice, as we use the properties of physics to allow us to do some funky stuff. So there we are, back down to 5,500, and you can see we're a little more unstable. So we're getting a fair bit of mechanical turbulence, and that's what I was talking about with the Sim Update 10. One of the beautiful parts about the way they've remodeled the winds, both lower and upper winds, is that we're getting a lot more action. A lot more wind action, a lot more mechanical turbulence coming off of ground surfaces. All in all, fantastic job, and thank you so much, Sobo, for putting that together for Sim Update 10. It's definitely becoming more and more simulator and less video game, and I like that. There's still some things that would make it more simulator, but all in all, I like it. It's a good addition. Get our cursor back in Flight Simulator here. There it is. And we'll keep that slight nose down pressure on the stick. Not a tiring flight by any means. Just a couple hundred miles. GPS says 74.9 miles. 75 miles. .2. So we're about halfway through our flight. A little less than halfway through our flight. Ground speed of 106. And 42 minutes. Nearest airport, navigation. So that's showing us top of climb. That's not what we want. We are 75 miles deviated. 200 feet below our altitude, so we'll go ahead and climb that back up. Now we're 100 feet below our altitude. So we have that point ahead of us. The bay looks like a fish, so that's easy to find on SkyVector. We'll be over Latoya Bay. And then we're going to get to the end of that. That's going to bring us into the relative area of Juneau. Which is a pretty area to be in. And so despite our GPS track having us out over the water, we're just going to keep flying over land as much as we can. And we're back at 5,500 again. And we're just cruising along. Toyota Lake area traffic, Pilot Club 664, correction, November 3740 Golf is 5,400 feet over top of Latoya Bay, tracking southeast for Ketchikan. Just a regular position report, let any other traffic in the area know where we're going, where we're at, and what we intend to do. We're tracking over the ground now at 105 knots. It says our deviation is 81 miles. Deviation of 80.1 miles. See, it'd be really nice if we could actually fix where we're going, because none of these work. Like, I'm not there anymore, and all these in-ops don't help me. So the GPS is actually not giving us the information that we need. And like I've stated several times, we're not going to trust the ice flow. We're going to stay over land, because that's where we should be. And I'm surprised nobody's asked yet, if you are watching, why we are on the right side of the aircraft and not the left. And the answer for that is the right side of the aircraft is the instructor position in the Grob 115. It is the primary flight seat, and if need be, it's where you learn to fly from. The instructor can sit on the left side, and the student on the right side, and the student will have full navigation. Or if you're just learning the basic flight parameters, you'd be sitting on the left side and learning your engine management. But most often, PIC would be sitting on the right side. It's a, again, it's an English-built aircraft, and a German-built aircraft primarily for the English, and as such, the English design has you sitting on the right. This particular aircraft, again, being modeled after the RAF version, the instrument panel is set up for right side flying. Not sure how RCAF has it, if they've flipped the panel or not. Be kind of interesting to find out. Most aircraft in North America are flown from the left seat, as I'm sure you're aware. We'll just pop over to Streamlabs. You can see we're, again, roll climbing to the left, which we want to avoid. I don't know why that is not called Fisheye Bay. That's such an opportunity that they've missed. So we're 80 miles from top of climb. Top of climb was, we are 87 miles from top of climb. Top of climb was 3 miles from our takeoff. That puts us 90 miles from destination and pretty much halfway through our flight. See, a little bit of math, and you can figure everything out. Ground speed's 100 miles, and you can see what I was saying about it being in cruise at the top range of the flaps. So as soon as you get into the circuit, you can actually just drop the flaps and start slowing her down even quicker. And we're now running parallel track to our GPS track for our flight. But we're going to continue kind of sticking on shore to provide ourselves with a way out if anything bad were to happen. We're down 1/8 of a tank in the fuel, so we're not doing too bad. T's and P's are in the green. See there, T's and P's are in the green. Fuel pressure's good. On the low side, but still good. Cylinder head temperature is good. We're charging. Outside air temperature is below 0. So we definitely want to stay out of moisture. And we've climbed up again to 5,800, so we're going to begin that descent again. There's 100 feet. And you can see we are well below the tops of those mountains. About halfway up to 1/3 of the way up. There we go. Back down to 5,500. And we're just going to rest our legs a little bit, get them off the rudder pedals. As we continue this relatively long flight, 2 hours, gives us a nice feel for this bird as we continue down the Alaskan shoreline. Looking at a few options to replace the Grob. The RCAF is using it, so it's kind of nice to have that. The PC-21 is not updated to a spot that I would like for VR use. Waiting on another version of the PC-21 to come out. We'll be getting that. And if you're a livery designer, would love to see an RCAF rendition of the Grob with the Canadian rondelles, and preferably dynamic tail numbering, but again, not vital. We're also looking at, I've got the Hawk, so that's our fast jet trainer. We've got the F-18. Sobo was the ones who put that out, which is great. But we are looking at a couple of ultralights for use with on-air. I'm looking at the Stream, the Sting. Have not decided what I'm going to utilize yet. On the VFR map there, you can see that we're getting up to the edge of the land mass. And that's going to kind of be the point where we start island hopping from spot to spot to spot in the Juneau area on our way down to Ketchikan. And if you're following along and you look at the map, we're going to be crossing over Palma Bay. After that there'll be 3 other small bays, passing over Cape Spencer Coast Guard Station. on our way south to Cake and Ketchikan, Sitka, Summer Strait, Wrangell. Where is Ketchikan? Why am I not seeing it? Let's file our flight plan in, or set up our flight plan in SkyVector. Flight plan to PAKT. Ketchikan. There we go. There we are. Yeah, we're about halfway through. And see what I was talking about with that roll. So while I was busy in SkyVector, which turned almost 360 degrees in a climb, which could lead you into some serious trouble. Steep turn. There we go. There we go. Okay. So we have two options for this next bit. We've got a cloud in front of us. There's a break in the cloud there on our 11 o'clock. Or there's a break in the cloud on our 1 o'clock, which would risk us going out over open water and ice. But if we look at our VFR map, we can also see that if we go left to our 11 o'clock, we have mountain ridges, etc., extending right to the shoreline. So what I'm thinking we might do is we might break to the right and go around. Just coordinate that turn up a little bit. There we go. Now we don't have a risk of CFIT, controlled flight into terrain. And we can continue our path. This is also going to bring us closer to our GPS track and cut out some of the deviation. Alright, so we're a fair distance out over the ice floe. engine was to quit, we could turn back to our right, although there'd be some trees. Our best bet would be to drop to our left there where that that beach line is. That would probably be our best bet. Up ahead of us, you can see cross sound or cross channel. I think it's cross channel. Cross sound. That's where we're going to be out over water for a little bit while we cross, I guess you could say. One thing we might do is stop at Juneau for lunch and then go from there. That might be an idea. As we continue to move this Grob from place to place. Not Grob, Grob. Need to practice my German, folks. Alrighty. So we're past that cloud that was causing us the consternation. So we're going to head back towards the landmass a little bit. And you can see most of what I'm doing today is flying almost completely visual. As usual with me and altitudes, I have a hard time judging our altitude. And especially when you have nothing to base it on that you know for sure. So we're just kind of chucking along here. 5,500. Well, now we're down to 400, but we're going to climb back up to 500. Not really good with that 100-foot measurement, but we'll get there. On the VFR map, you can now see the three-finger bays that I was talking about. That's going to be our precursor to cross, and at the end is going to be the Coast Guard station. It's a heliport. I was originally considering doing all this flying with a helicopter, but changed my mind. As much as I like the H-145, it's not required. I also have to check and see if the H-145 has updates. It'd be nice if it did. It's a fantastic helicopter, and it would be nice if it took advantage of the new Su-10 packages. So now we're crossing over to the first island. That little guy right there. And we lost another 100 feet because I'm not paying attention to altitude. I'm paying attention outside almost exclusively. So let's go ahead and climb back up. As you can see, the sun's risen a fair number of degrees. It's not so much in our eyes anymore. Getting into the early morning, not like early morning, but the mid-morning actually up here in Alaska in the Juneau area. Got the nice little peninsula here that leads us out into Cross Sound. We'll fly straight across Cross Sound. And like I said, you can see in the in shallow turns, the Grob 115 is very stable. Iris Simulations has done a fantastic job with this bird. Just keeping everything nice and comfy. Just trucking it along. And in case you're wondering what the settings that I use are, we're not running on the greatest of machines. I've got a HP Omen that's about 2 years old now. It's got RTX 2080 in it, or 2070 in it, my bad. Which gives us fairly decent VR capabilities, not stellar, but pretty decent. Overall, pretty good for Flight Simulator, for the most part. I kind of want to step away from buying these pre-built machines again. It just, sometimes it just doesn't stack up. What can I say? If I did rebuild another machine, I'd probably throw just a crap ton of RAM at it, 32 gigs minimum. Preferably 64 gigs of RAM, fastest CPU I can grab. Which, oddly enough, I'm actually kind of up in the air whether I want to switch over to AMD or continue with Intel NVIDIA sets, because I'm not too keen on the attitude that NVIDIA has taken lately with customers, especially gamer customers. For some of us this is a hobby, some of us this is training device, some of us it's work. For me, it's kind of a combination of training and hobby. I've been doing flight simulation for 25 years, almost 25 years. 23 years now? Yeah, something like that. And to hear NVIDIA talk about their plans for how they're continuing forward with their hardware, etc., is it's a little disconcerting. Their plan is to keep GPUs at a high price and keep them that way. Claiming that it's no longer viable to increase the computing power while decreasing costs. Their claim is that that's gone the way of all things, and now it's exponentially more expensive to develop the next generation of hardware, which, take it as you will, may or may not be the case. I'm not a chip designer manufacturer, so I can't say for certain, but I definitely do not like the implications that they're going with, claiming that, you know, it's very, very expensive for them to develop these. But I kind of feel like there's a little bit of profit taking going on, because let's face it, you develop the latest greatest card and all of a sudden everybody wants to go to that card and they dump their old ones, and you know, gotta get the best graphics. For me, the reason for switching over is not necessarily the graphics so much as it's a more accurate simulation. The more power you have to feed to Flight Simulator, the better off it can make its calculations and reduce the stutter. The smoother the sim flies at the higher settings, the better off we all are. So here we are coming across again. For Pete's sakes, stop doing this. The smoother the operation is, the better the quality of the stream, yada yada yada. I need better internet, because Canadian telecom providers are, well, I don't have a kind word for them, so let's put it that way. But yeah, the smoother the flight is for me, the more accurate the training, the better off everything is. It's kind of frustrating to see the simulator bouncing like this, going, oh, I can't connect, I can't connect. Hence why it brought me up to the telecom providers here in Canada. Arm and a leg for basic services. That's what it comes down to. Things that would make other countries just shudder in disbelief. I don't know why they insist on it, but they do. And we are past the Cape Hope Coast Guard Station helipad. See if we can kind of see it. We cannot, so. And our next visual aid for our flight is actually kind of over top of this island here on the other side of the cross strait. So we're just gonna fly towards the island, kicking across the cross strait. It's getting a little bit hazy up here. We can see that Juneau has some weather, so I think we're gonna continue on rather than stopping for lunch. Might have to look for a place to set her down while the fog dissipates out. Or rolls in, one or the other. We'll see what ends up happening. For those of you curious about the on-air side of things, this flight has 338 hours to complete it. So we're not pressed for time. About halfway over cross strait. If we followed the bay up, we'd get to the Juneau area and a crap ton of airports. Because if you're not aware, there are a huge number of aircraft registered in Alaska. It's a common place for pilots. Aircraft are just as common, if not more so, than pickup trucks and cars. Which is kind of nice to see that there's still a spot in the world where that's the case. Although I feel bad for them with the price of fuel lately. Here in Canada, in South Central Ontario, the price of avgas has popped up to $2.75 per liter if you're buying it in bulk. If you're buying it, you know, for regular consumption, like not in bulk, it's probably closer to the $3 mark. I'm so glad my aircraft runs on MoGas. Thank you Rotax for designing them, designing a two-stroke engine that runs on regular Supreme fuel. Even that's down like around the $2 liter mark, but it's still more manageable than avgas. Avgas is absolutely nutsoid. For those of you who are wondering where we're at in the real world, coming up next week, I'll be at the Waterloo Wellington Flight Center open house for a good chunk of that. I do want to speak with some of the staff there about upgrading from the ultralight license to the recreational pilot. I want to find out what the costs associated with that are going to be. Might be financing that through our company if and when I can. Get into a little bit heavier aircraft and enjoy some a little bit more power, a little bit more performance, and a little bit more unstable flying conditions, because right now even relatively light wings can still ground me, and I get jealous of watching the other pilots go over my head. But heavier aircraft means heavier costs, heavier certification requirements, the whole 9 yards. That cloud is getting close. We're going to go ahead and descend to 3,500. We're going to throttle right back. And remember what I said about slipping? We're going to take advantage of this aircraft and our ability to slip. We're going to reduce the manifold pressure to keep that speed down. See, that weather update just happened. Reset that altimeter. Just passed through 4,500 feet. There's 4,000. 3,900. we are bleeding the speed off. Or the altitude off. There's 3,500. Let's check what she looks like down here at 3,500. Looks like we're still going to hit the clouds. So we're going to drop even more down to 1,500. Okay, go ahead and drop a notch of flaps, and that'll help us steepen up that drop without picking up all kinds of airspeed. All right. We're down at 1,900 feet. We're below the clouds. But now we have a different problem. Our GPS track, if you can see, is going to take us through this mountain range to a river on the other side. So we're going to have to kind of pick and choose our way across this valley. Here we are over the lake. We were climbing, we're at 2,000 feet. Down at 2,000 feet, we're not really in anybody's way. We do have to be aware of any westbound traffic. So we're over the lake. We're gonna kind of pick and choose our way across this mountain range here to the river, and then we're going to fly up the river. And this is where you're really going to see the changes that Service Update 10 brought and how it affects the Grob. The Grob is, again, it's stable, but it is responsive, and that's an important factor to remember. See that lift on the left wing, not the right? That's a side effect of the mechanical turbulence we're getting. Left wing being closer to that ridge. We're going to climb up just a hair and get over this ridge. And then ahead of us, we should see the river. See, now we've got a little bit of a wind drift coming in. So we're going to drop that right wing. And you'll really see it pick up here as we get into this wind tunnel. If I try to hold straight and steady here, you can see it pushing us around. So again, the weather's not fantastic. Not liking it. But we do have visual on the ground. We're gonna get ourselves over this river here. We're gonna follow it. So we're gonna have some fun. Throttle it back. We're gonna begin a descent here. Do some rough country bush flying. I'm gonna drop into the channel here. And one thing we are going to do is turn on our landing light, help improve visibility of the aircraft. And here we are at 600 feet. We are going to burn a little extra fuel doing this, but let's have some fun. So we got mountains on our left, mountains on our right, mountains in front. And we're going to follow the sound up the left. Nice and easy, about 15 degrees of bank. Roll it out. Nice and level. We're just going to keep this going right up the mountain range. And you can see we're walking back in towards the GPS track again. This little bay is going to come up, it's going to end. We're going to climb up over the island on our way. As we continue our flight. Need to come back on the prop, we're overspeeding the prop. We don't want to stay at full power, so we're going to come back to 2500. Sorry, 25 inches. Should be alright on the power. It's going to keep us around 110. We're 142 miles. And if we zoom out a little bit, we're going to kind of want to stay to the left side. Would be the ideal path. So we're going to stay to the left side valley. Not a whole lot of options as to where to land up here. There just isn't. But we do have cloud above us, and we still want to continue our flight, so we're going to keep the clouds in mind while we continue across this island. The Chickagoff, which is the Moor Mountains. Ignore the canopy closed. Ground speed still reading 104. So the problem with flying like this, you can see we've got a definite crab going here, where we're flying kind of crooked to the ground, but that's to be expected. The wind is not coming up the valley very stably. It's gusting, it's jumpy, it's very turbulent, bumpy. That little ding tells us that there is a message from the soups. So let's open up BSR. And see what the message was. See, we're losing airspeed somehow. Okay, let's open up VPilot. Good evening, pilots. There's an S3 CPT starting down at Cairo. Well, we're nowhere near Cairo, so we're gonna ignore that for now. we'll just slide this down out of the way. We're going to ignore Toronto arrival because Toronto is a very far away. Boston is a very far away. Why are you showing us these things that are so far away? Like literally on the other side of the continent. Ooh, that was closer than I thought it was. Alright, so we are in some rougher weather, especially staying this low to the ground. Visibility is still 3 miles, so we're not breaking any rules yet, but it won't be long. If this weather keeps deteriorating. Alright, so there's a Finger Lake below us. That's that one there. We're going to follow that Finger Lake. We're gonna let the plane fly itself for a minute while we adjust seat. Okay. Seats readjusting. Now we're gonna pull the seat back. There we go. Getting to that point in the flight where it's a little bit painful on the rear. You can see we got away from the ground and all of a sudden there's a lot less turbulence. This is what I'm talking about, the changes. It's absolutely wonderful. I believe we're also in a different weather system now. Now we're slowly climbing, 3,500. There we are. We can go ahead and drop that back. But we don't need full. And drop. We're going to come back to 2,400. There we go. Relatively easy. Got a bit of ridge lift going on, so we can kind of use that to our advantage. And we also want to track to the east a little bit. Alright, there's no traffic up here. We're going to check something. Control options. I got to find if there's a way to do that. It's driving me insane. Keyboard, search by name. Look for GPS. Toggle TACAN drives GPS. Toggle GPS drives nav 1. Search for waypoint. Last waypoint restart. Next. Next point of interest. Next toolbar panel. Next fixed camera. Next pilot position. Ugh, none of them. Okay. And again, we're back into that super low visibility, bonkers weather. You still see the ground. What I need is an airport. I'm gonna check. False Island, False Island. Nope, not until we get away from the islands do we have a airport. Sitka is gonna be our next airport. And that's way the heck down there. So we're descending to try and get out of the fog. There's our waypoint there. Or not our waypoint, but it's a sound. Need to get down to Sitka. That's what we need to do. Six, and then yeah, Passy is going to be our way. So how do we get to Passy? It's really simple. We're going to just follow the water. We can get over to that water there, we'll be fine. We'll just follow the water into Sitka, and that's what we're going to call for the flight. Because unfortunately, looks like the fog is setting in. There's the water there. Let's head over there. How's that outside air temperature? It's still below 0, so that's concerning because we're in moisture and we want to get out of the moisture below 0. We do not want to get into icing conditions, which is kind of where we are. And we don't really have any good options for where to land. There's no land airports near us. Okay, so we're trying over here. We're actually getting into some better weather over here than we were back there. Huh. So let's try just following this river for a little bit. And see if we can't kind of salvage some of the flight. Alrighty. So enough bouncing around all over the place here. See if this is viable. 05 Alpha, a goon, or Angoon, has no land. Juno is back up the river. We're halfway between Juno and Sitka. Sitka would be the better option. So let's go to Sitka. We'll go to Sitka. The weather's kind of not holding out for us. We're lower than we wanted to be and burning up a lot more fuel than we wanted to be. And this just goes to demonstrate why flight planning is of vital importance. So if we follow that big bay on our right, that's going to kind of lead us back out to the western shores, which is going to lead us to a couple of bays. We're going to take the second bay, fly up it to the second river, hop over an island, and Sitka would be directly ahead of us. What'll be really frustrating is if we get down to Sitka and then all of a sudden the weather's better. But somehow I don't think that's going to be the case. So we're going to start the turn. Nice and easy, and head out towards Sitka. Not a whole lot going on the audio tracks for Bad Sim today. Not very loud, not very squawky. Ugh. So not bad for flying VFR. Right here it's kind of nice. But again, now's where we would like to have a float plane, and we don't. So we'll continue trucking along. Forgot there was one other thing I could do for you guys, because I don't run it very often. But we'll start up that Fly Live Studio, and we'll check Streamlabs and make sure that it comes up. Chatbot password. And let's see if we can get that flight data to show up. There we go. And remember what I said about leaving that stupid thing alone for 2 minutes? It does stupid stuff. I want to go this way. There we go. So now we're trucking along. should be able to chatbot flight metar. There we go. I wonder if I can actually hit it. Let's try it.
This is breaking.
That's not what I wanted. Mute myself. Got it. Now we're going to try. Okay, so something's happening with the restream chat where it's not popping it from one to the other. So we'll keep that muted. Stream settings. Go to the chat. Settings, chat settings. Okay. Not sure why I'm having issues with the chat. I thought Restream was supposed to redirect chat, but it's not, so. We go in here and we try that again. And then we go in here. Okay, so I came in for Percy's Playhouse. Yep. Then go back into here. Yeah, okay, so it's coming from... It's going to... Restream is seeing it, but it's not passing it on. Oh, screw off. And again, we have to descend because clouds. Visibility 10 miles, few clouds of 1,600. So we need to get below these clouds. So that's our answer. Is as we get to Sitka, it's just going to be cloudy. Above 1,500 feet. It would be nice, but we don't have a Sitka arrival, so. So if you're watching on Twitch, you'll get the additional bot functions. If you're watching on YouTube, unfortunately those are not active. I'm not sure why. Gonna work on getting that fixed up in a little bit. But for now, let's just enjoy ripping up the river here while we make our way into Sitka. We're not far from the Sitka airspace now, though. That's good news. By 700 RPM. We're gonna just burn fuel. Try and get there quickly. Be really nice if this aircraft actually, you know, had icing or whatever. Even just a simple autopilot would be nice, but we don't have any of that, so. Fly it by hand, get it there. Thousand 100 feet. See land in front of me, land to my right. The remarks don't say anything about rain. So maybe the rain will stop shortly, hopefully. There's a little bit more visibility. That's good news. There's that bay. We'll follow this river. "22 miles. We're gonna keep an eye on that. So we're at 1,800. We know clouds are few clouds at 1,600 and broken at 4 as we approach Sitka. So we got a little bit of breathing room now. Which we're gonna make use of. Sun's above us. It's starting to poke through some of these clouds. Got the ocean behind us. All this is salt water. Be good fishing spots, actually. Be really nice fishing spots. So while the Grob is a good aircraft for general flight and for enjoyment, gonna talk a little bit about its on-air capabilities and how it handles up here in bush country. In bush country, it's not that great. Not gonna lie. It's got decent short field performance, but the issue is that you need land. There is no variant of the Grob for floats or skis, so you're basically stuck to more or less proper airport surfaces, which isn't bad in the lower 48, but up here in Alaska, like you saw the weather turned. We could have been on the water and parked a little while ago if we'd had that option of landing on the water, which we did not. So if you're into doing stuff like on air and stuff like that and you're in the lower 48, it's an absolutely fantastic bird. One passenger, up to 800 pounds cargo, although your range is greatly reduced when you get up there. And remember, it's only got a 600-mile range. So for short hops and stuff like that, it's fantastic. If you want to just mess around and do aerobatics and stuff like that, again, fantastic. But for, general purposes, it doesn't show up as a fighter, so you lose some of the capabilities that it has in systems like on air, where they're rating your following the rules flying. So, not bad for certain areas of the world, but definitely not ideal for bush flying. But then again, it wasn't designed as a bush flyer, it was designed as a primary trainer. So, good to keep around your home field for training hired employees and stuff like that. Not so great of a aircraft to keep for actual money making. You're going to be making a couple thousand tops. This flight that we're doing right now pays $3,800, but it's quite the flight, and we're probably going to end up changing it from one aircraft to another, just because of the way things handle. So, in terms of economics review, that's my verdict on it. It's a good bird, not for bush flying. As for flight dynamics, it's fantastic. Responds to cargo appropriately, responds to two people in the cockpit appropriately, responds to weather. Not much to say about it bad, really. It's a pretty good bird. However, that being said, I don't find it's going to be one of my primary aircraft, and having spent, I think it was 30 Canadian dollars on it, it's kind of a shame not to be able to get more enjoyment out of it. The biggest complaint I have with it is the livery pack. This is very much an RAF centered aircraft. Being able to put some other paint jobs on it would be nice. FlightSim.to is pretty barren for it right now. There's only a couple of paint jobs for it. The GPS in it is one of its major shortcomings. It'd be nice to have it updated so that the other functions were not inoperative. It would be really nice to be able to say, let's move to the next waypoint, because then our navigation equipment would be stepped up. But again, it's just not there. Sicko, Passy. And in other kind of fields, we don't have ADF receiving, so we can't fall back on that for non-directional beacon tracking, which should be nice. It's not vital, but it's nice to have. So it's kind of You get what you get. Again, you get an aircraft capable for general training purposes, general simulations. It's really good. Engine management, etc. Absolutely 9 out of 10. For immersion, again, it's a very good aircraft. Visibility kind of sucks, but again, that's not Iris Simulation's fault. This is just the aircraft itself. I'm used to much more open designs, bubble canopies and stuff like that. So, not going to be an aircraft that I fly all the time, but not because it's a bad aircraft. 100% fantastic job, Iris Simulations. It's a really good bird. I find it interesting that there isn't more dynamics on the control surfaces. It seems like they don't deflect a lot to get a very fast response. But again, not knowing the real aircraft, I can't really compare. I was kind of disappointed actually that the RCAF, when they came to the London Air Show this year, didn't bring the what's the winds? Deadcom? I was kind of disappointed that the RCAF didn't bring the Grob to the London Air Show. It would have been a real treat to see one up close, especially seeing them in the simulator now. If there is an RCAF or virtual RCAF group, I would love to see this used for them, as well as obviously them getting a paint scheme for it, so on and so forth. It would be absolutely fantastic. We're gonna climb back up to 1500. Actually, you know what? Let's just make straight in on the southbound runway, and if we can get the information for copy this, go into here, chat. Let's see if we can get the chat settings. No. Let's go settings, general stream. Okay, we'll change them later. Might have found the fix for it. Are we at 1500? We're over 1500. We're at 1600. What is the southbound runway here at Sitka Pazzi? It looks like it's going to be runway 11. Sitka traffic, November 3740 Golf is 3 miles to the north. We're inbound to land runway 11. Correction, inbound to land runway 12. 12. Alright. Throttled off, we have all kinds of airspeed. We're 3 miles out. We're going to let that nose rise up, and then we're going to kind of just full right rudder, bleed it off. First notch of flaps, landing lights are on. Seatbelts tighten and secure. There we go. We're going to begin that descent.
Wind 080 at 2 knots.
Wind 080 at 2 knots. That gives us slight left crosswind, which is good to know. We can kind of bleed it in. We're going to make the approach. There we go. We're going to add in the power to stabilize. We're going to go to full flaps. We're a little low. We're gonna add power. Oh, it is runway 11. Okay. We're over the gate. Power off. And flare is really gentle in this aircraft. Below 40. We're going to take our next taxiway here. Sick of traffic. November 3740 Golf is type Grob. We're down and clear of all active runways on Alpha. So landing time was logged in on air, so we're good. We're just going to find a nice parking spot. We're going to go ahead and shut it down. Let's see, is he going to guide us in? Let's see if he guides us in. That doesn't look like what he's doing. He's just chilling out. A little bit further. Alright. Landing rate of 100 feet per minute. It's not bad at all. We're going to go ahead and set the parking brake. And landing lights off, strobe lights off. Okay, let's go back over here. Pitot heat is off, strobe light is off, which will allow us to shut this back down to the red. Off, strobe light is red, that's beacon lights. Instrument lights are off, nav lights are on. Landing light is off. Pitot heat is off, avionics master switch is on. Go ahead and turn off the avionics master. Turn off the generator. We'll cut the power. Or cut the fuel, I mean.
Engine off, time logged. The flight is finished. It has been monitored by on air.
And then we turn our battery off. So that shuts us down for the most part. Alright. And then we'll give you a quick demo here. Canopy is open. And you can see from the outside. Looks like a nice little Speedy Bird. Kind of similar in some aspects to the RV. I like the RV a little bit better. The Hershey, the wing's a little less Hershey bar, giving it a slightly higher speed. It flies pretty similar actually to the RV-14, but the RV-14 is as far as I'm concerned, a nicer bird. I like it. Other options we might consider soon are the RV-8, the Stream. There's a couple options. But again, up here in Alaska, you kind of want to have that options for floats. So we're going to take a look at some things and we'll get back to you. Thank you so much for joining us. Overall review of the Grob 115 is positive. I mean, this is a good aircraft if you're using it in the right environments. Alaska in the in the early fall, probably not the best place for it, but it's a good aircraft. Hope to see you again when we change this out for something with floats and continue on our journey heading back to Waterloo. Have a great rest of your morning, afternoon, as the case may be. We'll see about coming back later if we do. Look forward to seeing you. Join us. Have a great day.